You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah! And now, coming to you live from the .biz radio network on ProWrestling.biz and presented by Wrestling-News.net, it's Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed. We are your reaction show, so call 914-803-4532 and use the hashtag MEM Live on Twitter to connect with us during the show. And now, here are your hosts for tonight's show, John Curry, Mark Madison, and Mike Holland. Jack on the Wilson exploding a beer in front of your face. Welcome everybody to Main Event Madness, coming live from the .biz Radio Network. And I think I'm waiting for a couple guys, but I still have with me one of my co-hosts that you can hear with me each and every week. He's a writer for TJWrestling.net, and if they have their way, sportskeeda.com, cheap plug. My fellow non-sober co-host, Mike Holland. Mike, are you there? Mike, are you there now? Mike, can you hear me? All right, wrestling podcasts are a dime a dozen these days, but you want a show that you can feel is yours, and a show you can react on and react with. Well, Ask and You Shall Receive Main Event Madness is now your reaction show, as we're live after every pay-per-view at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. BlogTalkRadio.com/ProWrestling.biz and Wrestling-News.net are the places to be, as we have new episodes every Sunday. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed, a ProWrestling.biz radio network production. We here at Main Event Madness pride ourselves on being able to connect with all of you during the show and, more importantly, after the show. And you want more ways to do it? No problem. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness is the official Facebook page of Main Event Madness, and it's loaded with columns, news, opinions, as well as upcoming guests, showtimes, and more. Check us out and give us a like today. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness. If you're a wrestling fan and you want news and you love hearing about different shows, no problem. Wrestling-News.net has you covered with news on all of your favorite promotions, including exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Also, Wayne Daly has you covered with results from shows almost anywhere in the globe. Check them out today. Wrestling-News.net.
CrewRoundtable.com is the place to find discussion and analysis on all the hot news topics taking place in the Greater Toronto Area. Join CrewRoundtable.com for fun and entertaining talk on news, current events, and listener-suggested topics.
Finally.
Unlike mainstream media,
we can get one of these
gives
working
you
for
all
once.
sides to the story.
Look at that. We have two. This is really weird seeing my own number call into a show.
You just called yourself, John.
No, Mark called on my
The call's calling from coming from inside.
Now we're just waiting. What was Brandon?
Hey guys.
What's up?
Greetings.
Brandon was actually calling. Brandon was calling me, but he's calling you.
Yeah, I figured if he could call a landline, he'd be able to call in, but it's kind of working out that way to make it like a Emelina of the show. Even when it's supposed to happen, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we are live from the .biz radio network, and I say this is probably a good thing. We're going to do a 10-bell salute, and we'll acknowledge the slew of fallen icons that have left us this week, and recollect ourselves, get our ass together, and we'll go from there. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right, let's see if these templates actually work. It's not mine, so.
Sure.
All right, that was a 10-bell salute and a moment of silence for the slew of wrestling names that have left us in the last week, including Chavo Guerrero Sr., George the Animal Steel, Ivan Koloff, and I haven't been around a computer to check lately. I know it was a case of has she or had she passed away, but Nicole Bass, if she hadn't, wasn't in anywhere close to good shape, unfortunately. Do you guys know whether or not, if she's still with us or not?
I believe she did pass away. Yes.
Okay.
Nicole Bass?
It's hard for,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, she has.
Okay.
52 years old.
Because I knew a couple days ago we all were posting about it, and then there were some conflicting reports whether or not she was still alive, wasn't still alive. But sucks to see any wrestler pass away, let alone 4 in 1 week. 2017 starting to kick off like a 2016 version for wrestling. All the celebrities that died in 2016.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not the case this year. But Ivan Ginzburg is going to be on with us, I believe, in about an hour or so. And I know he wants to talk about, especially Nicole Bass, who is a friend of his, as well as Ivan Koloff. And some other stuff hasn't been on the show since a while before I think we went on hiatus, if I'm not mistaken. But, well, since I screwed up the intro, I'm also joined by a writer for TJWrestling.net, as well as Sportskeeda, PWP Nation, wherever else you can find a wrestling column, Mark Madison.
Hey,
every
buddy.
fucking website out there that has wrestling columns, you write for them, which isn't a bad thing. It's a very good thing. Brand exposure.
Shameless self-promotion. Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. I had my first piece with PWP Nation out this week, and it was funny because Brandon comments, he's like how many, another one with somebody else? But I think it's important, and I think Evan would probably even say the same thing, that if you're trying to generate some sort of interest or following, or you know that you could try and spread some sort of word and hopefully generate people to be interested in somewhat of what you're saying, you have to really work hard at it and diversify. That's kind of my motto, I guess. And I'm fortunate enough to work with great people like Mike, and we collaborate on a column where we can get our creative juices together and produce something. So, yeah.
I wanted to try to get back out there, and hopefully it changes in my favor. It looked like Sportskeeda had a full crew just around when I wanted to get on board. But you never know. Things happen. But definitely happy for you to get your work out there, and you do a great job, as well as you can look on Facebook.com/WrestleNewsHub, and you can see a lot of his work on there as well. So it's, we're in shameless plug hour.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. So, any memories of George the Animal Steel, Ivan Koloff, Chavo Classic, or which was, I believe, the WWE name for him, if I'm not mistaken, or Nicole Bass that you guys want to bring up?
Mike, go for it, buddy.
Well, I would say I think your comments were well taken, John, that, it's kind of WWE Hall of Fame time. And so that sort of adds another dimension to some of these names that have passed away. And I think the first show that I did with you guys, we talked about kind of, when we grew up with the sport and that kind of thing. So for both Koloff and George the Animal Steel, I hate to say before my time, but to some degree it was. But I would say of that group, I thought that, there were a bunch of guys, and I'm sure Evan could speak to it and has, who really made their hay outside of the WWE. And it's kind of interesting that we're having that conversation. I know Mark has really been digging into, what goes on outside of WWE, and I think that's important for fans to understand, especially if you're not content with the current product that you're seeing every week, to go out there and see other things that are available besides just WWE. And many of these guys from the territorial era really, if you just know them from what they did in the WWE, then you really only know a small amount of the story. And I certainly think that's true for George Steele, who amazingly, despite his look and everything else, as late as Tim Burton's Ed Wood movie, managed to turn it into a career, a viable entertainment career, out of a character that didn't really talk, And, that's a tough thing to get over in the multimedia world of wrestling. So I would merely say, while I think, again, I share your kudos and appreciation for anybody who gets into the ring, no matter how long that may be. It's a very tough career, and they definitely shorten their lives for our entertainment pleasure. But I would say one thing, George Steele specific, the angle that WWE did where they had him kind of pining after Miss Elizabeth and getting into that feud with Randy Savage was really good, and I think an example of, even if the guy is not the greatest technical wrestler in the world, even if he's not good on the microphone, if you can put him into a situation that people can relate to and get excited and emotional about, it can really have some great moments. And I really think that's one thing that stands out for me with George Steele was that whole angle that they did with Randy Savage, who, of course, was one of the best guys, talkers, and in the ring that you had. Really stands out to me as a moment that, for those of us that go into the classic WWE 70s and 80s stuff can appreciate. So well done to all of them, but that would be one moment that stands out to me specifically about him.
What about you, Mark?
Anybody else though, Mike? Oh, okay. So I didn't know if you wanted to cover any memories of Nicole Bass.
Just anything of the bunch that stands out to you.
The whole Macho Man Elizabeth, George Steele angle that Mike mentioned, it's really hard to kind of duplicate that. I guess the idea that you may not be the best looking guy, or everybody has a chance, and really, you really stick it to the big, tough jock, and even though you might be the Quasimodo in a Beauty and the Beast type scenario, there's hope for you, right? So it worked in that particular era. But I would say of anybody that I really had more so, and I guess being Canadian, we didn't have as much exposure to Howard Stern and Nicole Bass, and I know she was in the WWE for like a blink of an eye, and I think they even teased the idea of her going head to head with China, which is really would have been something for us to have seen. But if there was anybody that was of the bunch that maybe stuck out to me, would probably have been Ivan Koloff. His whole run with Nikita Koloff and the whole Red Army type angle that they had going on of the U.S. versus Russia, and how that whole thing seemed to have worked out. It worked in its particular period, but known wrestler ended Bruno Sammartino's reign. A reign that ran for 8 years. I mean, in itself, you'll never see that. So when we see a Jay Lethal hold the title for a year and a half, and then we realize that somebody held it for 8 consecutive years, that's pretty unprecedented. So I think the Ivan Koloff and what his contribution was and where he goes in the annals of history should be recognized. And hopefully he will be in the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he won't be there to celebrate it, and it's going to be more so his family.
Definitely. And the fact that Ivan Koloff is in the Hall of Fame, with all the attention and publicity that Bruno Sammartino has been getting with WWE for the last 5 years or so, it's kind of remarkable that the guy who beat him and ended the 8-year reign isn't in the Hall of Fame. That alone is Hall of Fame worthy, let alone the fact that he was as dominant as he was. I know that part we're going to hear a lot more from Evan Ginzburg next hour. But we do have a lot to get to, and I hope we have Mark past his bedtime tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Do we have you for longer than 5 minutes tonight?
You do have me longer. Well, we had a lot of technical issues that particular episode, though.
Hey, listen, we're trying to move past it. We're trying to move past these technical issues, and we could get, we could have these behind us once and for all. So we'll see in the coming weeks ahead. Hopefully that is the case. Bear with me for just a second. I did not have this sound clip. I think I know who's on hold right now, and I don't believe I have a sound clip ready that I want to have ready. I don't think I do. So, for Mr. Lasher, if you can hold on for just a second, I want your sound clip for you to make.
So
the
we
intro.
need to keep that particular person waiting.
That is the particular person waiting, yes. But we do have a number of topics to get to tonight, and I want to talk about Elimination Chamber.
See, and I was trying to keep it all.
What's that?
Ignore this, John, whatever I'm typing now. Look at it afterwards.
I love that WWE put the championship on Bray Wyatt, and
Keep going.
On the flip side, I don't really know how much I like Naomi as champion. We'll get to that. And we have the second Royal Rumble of the year, which WWE will have on SmackDown this week. Another TNA blunder, which these never get old. And if any of you have listened to the show in the last few months, you've heard how much these don't get old and how good of a laugh I get from this, unfortunately. I want to talk about Monday Night Raw, which was very newsworthy, as well as SmackDown was. Like I mentioned, the mini Royal Rumble next week. We'll get to that. And I want to talk to you guys about, if we do have time, Vince McMahon's, and this might be a good topic to get Sir Evan up so we can have a rant. Vince McMahon's opinion of Cesaro. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have a new segment we're debuting this week. It's called Wrestling Tinder. Only Mark knows. Only Mark knows. If you guys are familiar with Tinder, you guys may enjoy this. Hopefully you do. We'll get to that later in the show.
One more time?
What's that?
You cut out.
I said we have your new segment this week, Wrestling Tinder, that we're going to get to.
So, kind of, as you were saying it, so I missed.
You broke up really quick. What were you saying? Yeah, you're there. Look at me. I had to sit here and say something about how long Mark was going to be out before he starts cutting out. Mike, are you still here? Okay, you're still here.
I
hear
am
you
here.
laughing. That's the thing.
I am
My
here.
sound clip is not uploading.
It sounds
which is really annoying. It's really depressing.
Sounds like
Mark. I wanted to do a little vignette before before Brandon got on here.
Looking forward to it.
As long as this video actually or this sound clip.
Oh, I didn't say
now,
anything. I'm looking forward to it.
John, don't
turn
turn this into Emelina, where we're waiting for Brandon, and then he comes out and says, "I'm not Brandon anymore."
Well, that was the sound clip, was the Emelina clip, like a little vignette for her. But nonetheless, all right. For the first time in like 763 years, another writer for TJRWrestling.net as well as Sportskeeda.com, Brandon Lasher, is on the show with us. And for the first time in ages, we actually have all four of us.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
Well, conveniently, I look exactly like Emma in real life, so it kind of fits really well.
You do not, you lying sack of.
We're twinsies.
Okay, you got the long blonde hair?
Sure, why not?
Okay. We might have to talk about that.
Zack Ryder must love you.
I'm sure he doesn't. He said Zack Ryder must love you.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, long time no talk to. You conveniently,
absolutely, sir.
You conveniently scheduled the show when I was still.
Between Zach and you, like, show your matches.
What? I didn't get all that.
You know, it's something about my co-host. I don't think I'm meant to have one. I know I have 3 of them now, but I don't know if I'm supposed to have like a main co-host, because when Al was my host with me, he could never call from Canada or from Miami. Mark's been trying to call for 3 years into the frickin' show, 2 years into the frickin' show, and he's had problem after problem. I don't think I'm meant to have a co-host.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Mark, but it's all your fault. You are the Snitsky of this show.
Ooh, that's mean,
ouch.
Man. That's mean.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
I mean, if you want to tease him, that's one thing, but
don't worry.
Come on.
I'm kidding. But at least he'll have been able to punt the baby.
Seriously, no babies were punted in the making of this.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, Gene Snitsky, baby punting and foot fetishes. That's not a nice comparison.
I forgot about the second part.
It's okay.
All right, I take that back.
Okay, that's why I had to bring it up. I thought it was mean.
I think.
What were we talking about?
Well, let's get our shit together again really quick. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk about Elimination Chamber this past Sunday.
We're actually going to talk about something that occurred like this year. That's good.
Yeah, we're getting there. Little by little. It sounded like a rerun for the first half hour of the show. All the audio issues.
Well, that's not. That's just a reoccurring joke. You're like a sitcom.
Point, yes, it really is.
You're just like a sitcom, so it's a reoccurring joke.
Is it a good sitcom, or is it like, is it like King of Queens level sitcom, or like Full House, or is it like George Lopez show?
Which one's the good one there?
Full House. No, you didn't enjoy Full House?
Absolutely not.
Well,
yeah, John, let's not get into your love of Full House. We don't have. It's only like an hour and a half show. Only an hour and a half show.
We might actually talk about wrestling on a wrestling show at some point.
Is Mike?
Yeah. All right, my co-host has turned on me. On that note, I think we're going to get a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Mike, Mark, and Emelina and I were going to talk Elimination Chamber, RAW and SmackDown this week, and TNA's latest blunder. So stick around, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after these words.
All right, wrestling podcasts are a dime a dozen these days, but you want a show that you can feel is yours, and a show you can react on and react with. Well, ask and you shall receive. Main Event Madness is now your reaction show, as we're live after every pay-per-view at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. BlogTalkRadio.com/ProWrestling.biz and Wrestling-News.net are the places to be, as we have new episodes every Sunday. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed, a ProWrestling.biz radio network production. We here at Main Event Madness pride ourselves on being able to connect with all of you during the show and, more importantly, after the show. And you want more ways to do it? No problem. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness is the official Facebook page of Main Event Madness, and it's loaded with columns, news, opinions, as well as upcoming guests, showtimes, and more. Check us out and give us a like today. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness. So you're a wrestling fan, and you want news, and you love hearing about different shows. No problem. Wrestling-News.net has you covered with news on all of your favorite promotions, including exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Also, Wayne Daly has you covered with results from shows almost anywhere in the globe. Check them out today. Wrestling-News.net.
CrewRoundtable.com is the place to find discussion and analysis on all the hot news topics taking place in the Greater Toronto Area. Join CrewRoundtable.com for fun and entertaining talk on news, current events, and listener-suggested topics. Unlike mainstream media, CrewRoundtable.com gives you all sides to the story so you can make up your own mind. Visit CrewRoundtable.com.
Oh, mama, I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the Lord. Lord, man is putting into my running, and I'm so far from my home. Oh, mama, I can hear you crying, you're so scared and all alone. Coming down from the gallows, and I don't have the will on. They take me up in music now, they finally found me. The renegade who had it made, retreat for a bounty. Never more to go astray, just to be the end today of the wanted man.
Did you know Book of the Territory Wrestling Podcast is where pro wrestling past meets pro wrestling present? The language is strong, but the banner is better. Book of the Territory drops 2 shows per week. The Thursday show covers all things classic wrestling and our weekly classic top 5 discussions. The Sunday show drops every Sunday night is completely dedicated to walking through each and every episode of Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You can subscribe on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts from. And that's Booking the Territory, Facebook.com/Booking the Territory, and you can follow them on Twitter at BTT_podcast. It's Booking the Territory, Facebook.com/Booking the Territory, as well as Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and more. So, what you guys heard in the background as well is Shallow Side, band who's been giving us music for the last little while. That was their new single, Renegade. You guys can check out their music on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your music from, hopefully legal. That's Renegade by Shallow Side. Go check them out at Shallow Side Band on Facebook and Twitter. Great band, and thank you to them for providing the official theme song of Main Event Madness. That is Renegade once again by the band Shallow Side. So let's talk some Elimination Chamber. Did you guys all catch the show? Because I only caught the main event. I won't lie.
Yeah, I caught the whole show.
Whole show.
Yes.
And I apologize for not catching the whole show. My vacation started a little bit early. But very surprising that John Cena wasn't even the last guy in the match. AJ Styles was the final one to get the pinfall. So it was like the WWE wanted to get John Cena out of the title picture rather quickly. What do you guys think of Bray Wyatt as the WWE champion? I'll go to Brandon first, who hasn't been on in a while.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've wanted Bray Wyatt to be champion for quite a long time, so I was really excited to see. I mean, once I saw that he pinned Cena clean, I was watching with my brother, and we definitely were pretty excited about it. We knew that it was going to finally lead to him doing that, but to beat Cena clean, AJ clean, and not to jump ahead, but later in the week, Cena clean again, I mean, I'm happy to see him finally getting behind Bray Wyatt, making him look good.
Yeah, it was a long time coming, Bray Wyatt, with all the different feuds that he's had to finally get to the mountaintop to be a WWE champion. But like we've mentioned, I think, on the show a few times, it's only one of those things that would happen if there were two world champions. I don't think if there was only one world champion that they would have Bray Wyatt as a WWE champion, at least not right now, with the names Brock Lesnar and Goldberg associated with the Universal title, seemingly for WrestleMania. Mike,
Absolutely.
what did you think of the new WWE champion at Elimination Chamber?
I tend to agree with Brandon. I mean, obviously, I think all of us are probably unanimous in appreciating what Bray Wyatt has done overall. I mean, he's got a very exciting character. I think it's an important moment for NXT, since this would be a character that really was formulated in NXT and is now, as that same character, WWE, champion, which I think is newsworthy in its own way. And we'll see where it goes from here. I think, the story that they're sort of going with early, where he's making it clear that he's not a company kind of champion or somebody that you would expect to be a champion, is a great story. And I think as anything, almost anything successful that WWE has done, it plays off the reality, that they have their own sort of champion that you've learned to expect, which is certainly embodied by John Cena, and that Bray Wyatt is not that. I don't know that I'm as into the Orton Wyatt storyline as maybe some other people are. It kind of, doesn't do a lot for me. I think it's pretty telegraphed, kind of in the same way Owens Jericho was, where eventually they're going to do it. They just kind of play it out until you finally say, okay. But I'm interested to see where it goes. I will not complain about him wearing the belt. And I also like the story that came out about the fact that if it was, I think AJ Styles said it, that it was John Cena who suggested that he take the fall. And I think that, John Cena has shown that much like some of the other guys that we've seen coming back into the business, that he's willing to give back in a way that I think is very important and, speaks to his character. So overall, I thought the show was good, and Bray is a champion. I'm interested to see where it goes, and hopefully they, continue to keep up that story, because I think it's interesting.
Mr. Madison?
Much like my colleagues, very excited about the idea that now Bray Wyatt, not just the idea, but the reality that Bray Wyatt is on top. It's been a long time coming. I like the inclusion of Luke Harper. It's interesting because he's very articulate, and the fact that he could be in some way potentially the leader of this battle royal that's coming up, if he's the one involved. I don't think there's far off from saying that there's going to be a triple threat, potentially the title, and then it's still not just the one, but all three of them. So I like that prospect, and it's great that now the title is on somebody that the fans have wanted to see for the longest time, face or heel, and maybe a program between AJ and him. That's not too far out of the realm of being possible. So yeah.
And what's interesting too, and I've seen, I've been listening to, not trying to promote another show, but they're like upper echelon, Busted Open on satellite radio, as I got my satellite radio at work, and been hearing all week of them speculating the possibility with this mini Royal Rumble that we're going to get through in a little bit, the possibility of Luke Harper being in the main event for the WWE title at WrestleMania. Does Luke Harper really belong in the WWE title match? Or am I just closed-minded to another fresh face in the main event? Mark?
No, I don't think you're necessarily closed-minded. I think it's hard maybe for people to see him go from 0 to 100 in that role, because he went from being aligned to automatically being in contention. What does that say about what he's doing to try and elevate the legs of a Baron Corbin? He could easily have been in that same position. So to that I say, I really don't think it's very say, but if it helps for the storyline, being there and not necessarily being somebody you consider a threat, he may just be there in body. Not that anyone is going to ideally say, guess what, Harper's going to win the championship for whatever reason. It just plays around with the idea that they're providing opportunities to those on SmackDown Live they always boast about. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily bad, but I wouldn't be convinced that it's the direction they're set on going and that he's going to be a long-term fix in that position.
What do you think, Brandon? Luke Harper and
I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, I agree it's definitely a quick jump for Luke Harper from where he is, but I've always wanted to write even a column about it, that, the talent that Luke Harper has. He seems to have everything that Vince would like. He's big, he's scary, he's a credible bad guy, he's got good mic skills, he can put on really high-quality matches for someone of his size. So, especially with the storyline as it seems to be going, it would make some sense maybe Luke Harper wins the Battle Royale, Bray Wyatt gets scared, and you throw Randy Orton back in there to quote even the odds or ensure his victory, and that would make some level of sense. Granted, it makes Bray look kind of dumb, but it would still be an interesting story, and I think the fans would enjoy it in Orlando.
What do you think, Mike?
I'm fine with it. I want it to be a good match. I think a triple threat match adds to the intrigue of it versus a one-on-one. I think it's kind of a throwaway in that I don't think anyone would expect Luke Harper to win the match. It could further the storyline with Orton and Wyatt. So I've been impressed with Luke Harper since he's made the jump. I think when he was in the tag team with Rowan, I thought they did a great job in their matches. So, I agree with both of those guys. I think that he can go. Why not give him an opportunity? He could open some eyes. But moving forward from him as a character, that'll be the interesting thing. I mean, I think he's so connected to Bray Wyatt that, I don't know where you go with that once that's kind of broken. And it seems like they've done that 4 or 5 times now where he, separates and then comes back. It's like an abusive relationship. But if they repackage him in the right way, I could absolutely see fans getting behind him. So I look forward to it. I think new talent in the main event is always good. So we'll see where it goes, but I definitely don't have a problem with it. I would much rather see Luke Harper wrestle in a triple threat than the same regurgitation of, various forms of matches that we've seen 100 times. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know a lot of people compare Luke Harper to a Bruiser Brody type, but I just don't know if they've done enough for his character to be believable in the WWE title match. I mean, it's a good story. If you're Eric Rowan, you're going to be fucking miserable to be out right now, because then it would be a fatal 4-way, and I mean, he would probably be the one getting the pinfall. But I don't know.
Yeah, but Eric Rowan,
I don't want to see Randy Orton. I don't want to see Randy win and take the belt right from Bray just as he's kind of being crowned as a new top tier talent. It's been such a long time coming for Bray Wyatt, and he's had so many damaging losses, to Cena and The Undertaker and the Brothers of Destruction and Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, and a lot of bad losses that haven't really helped him be believable as somebody who could be a world champion. To have him go in his first title defense and lose to Randy Orton, somebody who's been in the main event for 15 years, I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say, I find it pretty amazing that, Bray Wyatt goes from all of those losses. He also lost to the nearly 50-year-old Kane last year in October, which I'm still angry about, to just a couple months later being the world champion. So I agree. It's, he could very easily slip back into that role where he just says nonsense and loses all the time. So I hope if he does lose WrestleMania, they've got some good ideas to keep him relevant.
Yeah, anytime you lose to a 50-year-old Kane is not a really good thing for your career. And to be able to rebound from that, and to
Kevin
not
Owens
even rebound, yeah, that's true. Don't even get me started on that. We'll save that for next week.
After Fastlane.
No. Before Fastlane. The Sunday before Fastlane.
Oh, okay, that's true. He's
So
angry before it happens.
I am not happy in the slightest about the possibility of 51-year-old, 52-year-old, whatever he is, 50-year-old Goldberg beating Kevin Owens and becoming world champion, because that worked so well 15 years ago that they should just totally do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Do it again when he's in his 50s against the 40-year-old Brock Lesnar. That's exactly what they need to do. Exactly.
Maybe they can have maybe Kevin Owens can tase him.
Is that before or after he punches a plate glass window in a car?
That's before. That's when he got his first loss.
No,
So
guys, remember, it's going to be a triple threat match. It will be Goldberg versus Kevin Owens versus Locker Room Door.
There you go.
Can Gilbert be the special referee?
He's never gotten his hands on
Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Again, I don't know if Gilbert will ever walk again after Raw, but so I think we're all in agreement about Bray Wyatt.
WrestleMania moment.
Huh?
He said he still wants his WrestleMania moment, Gilbert, and that's the funny part. He just didn't. Like, what?
Gimmick Battle Royal? That Gilbert can eliminate himself? There you go. There's his WrestleMania moment.
Yeah. It's funny how James Ellsworth and him are actually aligned. He apparently used to be the caretaker in his high school.
Really?
Yeah,
So when Gilbert,
wow.
you guys
he was
watch
a janitor.
Ride Along? Yeah, he was their janitor, and James Ellsworth is like, "Hey, are you like Wayne Gill?" Or he's like, "Yeah." Like, but you're a wrestler. You're like, yeah. He's like, got to pay the bills. So clearly he wasn't making enough, even though he's on national television. Having to jump between both. It's funny.
You watched Ride Along? Wow.
Well,
hey, some of that was good. Like the Dudley one was hilarious.
Whose?
What were you saying, Mark?
No, I said sometimes when you're late, when you're up late and you're writing, and you're on the W Network, that's what's on. So.
Well, there.
Hey,
okay,
listen, Ride Along's not a bad show. They definitely have worse, like Total Divas.
Yeah, it's not like Madison was watching Holy Foley or something.
Ugh.
And by the way, I have a question, which is, so that is a good story, but the real question is, how did Vince turn that into an actual gimmick for Dwayne Gill? Because that seems tailor-made, that he would at some point have been, Gilbert the janitor or something.
Especially back in the 90s when everybody had a day job.
Exactly. Could have teamed up with Duke Trocy. You got it.
This is also the same time period of Mantar. I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, baby.
Oh no! It's post Mantar.
Was that the Mountie time?
Yeah.
Say it again.
No, I said was that the Mountie time?
Oh no, that's a terrible
love
time.
The Mountie. Love the Mountie. Now you're talking.
That's a much more terrible time. That was like mid '90s.
Yeah.
Gilbert and all them didn't show up until late '90s.
Yep.
Was that Damien Demento time?
Absolutely.
Mid '90s, yeah. The time I wasn't watching.
Damien Demento was on the first Monday Night Raw. So there you go.
1995.
John?
Yeah.
All right, this is showing my age. Wasn't Damien Demento Disco Inferno?
No.
Or are those two different people?
No.
Disco Inferno. Who is it? Who is his real name?
Glenn Gilbert.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, my bad.
Yep.
Every so often, my age pops up and betrays me.
It's all right.
My age and lack of wisdom with my well-seasoned co-hosts.
Sean, keep your jobbers. If there's one thing you got to do, it's keep your jobbers straight. Okay.
Absolutely.
Could have been worse. I could have thought the friggin' Disco Inferno was Tugboat. I didn't think that, but I'm saying I could have.
You know what's really disturbing?
It was a shock match.
I was just going to say, at WrestleMania 31, I saw someone cosplay as Tugboat. I mean, who cosplays as Tugboat?
Good Lord. Good Lord.
He's like, I'm at WrestleMania 31 in front of 70,000 people, and I'm going to be Tugboat. Yeah.
How do you know it wasn't actually Tugboat, Brandon? Come on.
And here I thought I was in the wrong just going with a Randy Orton T-shirt and the WWE title belt.
That's boring.
Hey, Randy Orton was good back then. People liked him back then.
I know, but in comparison, you could have been an obscure 90s wrestler that crashed through a wall and had a helmet fall off your head. So
be Shockmaster.
Did you guys watch an episode of...
Does that mean I can have Arn Anderson voice me? Because that would make this show so much better.
It was Ole Anderson.
No, it was
Ole Anderson.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, so
John,
I thought it was Arn Anderson.
Come on, John.
And besides,
listen, it was Shawn Michaels talking in the video. I think it was Shawn Michaels or somebody talking in the video. And they said it was Arn Anderson. Anyway, moving on.
This is the conversation people come for, random discussions of Tugboat.
That's right.
Exactly. Moving on. So, on Monday Night Raw this week, if you're living under a rock, and I don't like the timing of this, the best friends split up. And that's depressing.
But it had one of the better lines of the week, though. You don't have to wear pants if it's art.
Is it time to compare or to consider Jericho the greatest of all time? Character-wise?
The GOAT?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The GOAT?
Well, in terms of ability to evolve, absolutely.
Not to mention how good his acting skills have got. Why is my name on the list?
Only he could get that over.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Only he can make people hate Kevin Owens. And now
I agree with that. And, there's no better testament. I mean, we all know that Jericho will put anybody over in the ring to his credit, and that's commendable. But I am amazed and continually stunned that he can get basically any word in the English language over. I mean, he can turn quiet into a catchphrase. He can turn stupid idiot into a catchphrase. So you have to take your hat off to Jericho because he truly can. I think he just sits at home and says, this is the next word that I'm going to get everybody in the entire place to say. It's amazing.
Nobody could tell me that he wouldn't have tried to get Yatsa over before Daniel Bryan did, if he had the chance. If he had the chance to be the one behind Yatsa, he would have totally done it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, yep. I mean, he could get any word over possible. Yeah, that's how good he is.
Now, I do want to ask you guys really quick, and I'll go around all three of you guys. So we're talking about Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, and optimistically, and I'm trying to be positive and optimistic about Fastlane. And again, I know I said I'll get into my rant about that next week, but is there any hope that Owens and Jericho can be the Universal title match at WrestleMania? It's such a good story and so compelling. I'm going to go to Mike first because I haven't gone to him first yet.
I'm trying to temper my answer because you sort of pinned it in. Is it basically going to damage you and damage your psyche if what I tell you, there's no way in hell that's going to be the lead match because of what you already said about Cesaro. This is Vince McMahon's WWE. Jericho and Owens, no way. We have to, have bigger things than that. So, no, John, sorry. Go to therapy. No chance.
Who's to say the Universal title has to be the main event, though?
Well,
I mean,
nobody
regardless
that,
if it has a title or not, Goldberg and Lesnar could still be the main event.
And will be.
So if Goldberg and Lesnar is the main event without a title, what's the Universal title match? Is that then Finn Balor?
Well, are you assuming that Goldberg is not going to beat Owens? Or you're saying Owens will still be champion and wrestle Jericho as the number one contender?
Optimistically.
Yeah, forget it. I'm not even going to dignify that. Move to the next person.
All right. Mark.
I see them fighting for the United States title because
there you go.
I can't see them fighting for the Universal. The Universal will be between Goldberg and Lesnar unless something changes dramatically. And, if that's Jericho's last match before a Fozzy tour, he's put Owens over again, and Owens walks away with the U.S. title. So, all the more happier. I don't know if Balor would come, although he's being promoted for house shows. I think it's built for a Rollins, Triple H, maybe a Samoa Joe, Finn Balor. Maybe something there happens, and that Balor comes to the aid of. I don't know, but you could have something along those lines.
I don't know if I would be upset with Chris Jericho being Universal Champion. Am I wrong for thinking that could be a possibility? I mean, Chris Jericho is one of the most over people, and is always. I mean, if they're going to give Hulk Hogan a reign when he's 46, Chris Jericho can't get one?
He could. I just don't think the timing's going to work based off his other obligations. I don't see, unless something leaks or comes out saying post-Mania he's going to extend his time with the company, that's one thing. But I don't see that necessarily being the case because of, again, if WrestleMania is his last major pay-per-view, because he's going to go off to the sunset, not that that's necessarily confirmed. That's my only stumbling block between thinking he could be the Universal Champion or not, because then Brock holds the title, if that's the case.
But there's no
attraction. So.
But does WWE want to go to have, they're just trying to build up the prestige of the Universal title. Do they want to have a part-time champion?
They've done it already.
No, that's true. I don't know. I don't.
Let me ask you guys this, because I'll ask this question. If you and I hate the stupid WWE conference call and all that ridiculous, but fortunately there's people well paid far more than me who dissect all of that crap, because I would, shoot myself having to listen to them gloat over their numbers. But in the last conference call, one of the things that cracked me up, and this is where I feel like John Oliver reading the news, because it's almost funny just saying it. They asked Vince about Goldberg and whether that he attributed, the rise in ratings to Goldberg. And Vince seriously said that it's not one person, that it's the whole thing and blah, blah, blah. And listen, the reality is he loves the fact that Goldberg is getting eyeballs on the product. So, look, I hear the point. I understand. Would I like it to be Owens and Jericho? Sure. But the truth is, it's gone this way a while now. And WrestleMania, you have to almost take separately from anything else WWE does, because it like a big UFC card or, something like that, it's about the names. And they would much rather have these names of the past come in and fight these matches, and then they'll figure it out later. And I truly believe that that's how they do a lot of this stuff. So I thought it was really funny watching Vince try to dance around and say, oh, it's not Goldberg, it's, everything, and it's because we have two brands and blah, blah, blah. Look, the truth is he wants to get eyeballs on the product, and they feel that appealing to fans from, what wrestling was back in the day is the best way to do it. And so unfortunately for the, four of us, that means that some of the better talent is not going to get the catbird seat, go-home match. But look, we've seen that before, and it doesn't mean that they won't put on the best match of the night. So the good news is no matter where Owens and Jericho wrestle on the card, they're going to make everybody else look better or worse based on their performance. That's the bottom line.
You think they'll make others look better?
Well, I'm saying they have the potential to do that. I mean, they're going to set the bar wherever they wrestle on the card. And if you're coming on after, I mean, I don't know where AJ Styles is going to be on this card, So I like what Dolph Ziggler said about this way back when he basically said that every night that he goes out there, he's trying to have the match of the night. And he'll leave it up to everybody else to figure out whether he was successful or not. And I think that if you have that attitude in WWE, that's almost what you have to do because, they don't do some of these guys any favors with where they put them on the card. It's going to be very tough to follow Owens and Jericho, no matter who you are.
Well, I mean, as far as the talent goes, you can look at the bright side. You literally can't look any worse than Goldberg's going to look. I mean, if nothing else, I mean, you're not going to be the worst-looking person on the card.
Are you saying Goldberg's not going to break out some high-flying moves in Orlando?
I want to see Goldberg hit a Hurricane Rana.
And not land on his face?
Not be
he doesn't have to land on anything as long as he doesn't go Psycho Sid.
Keep the scissors away. I would ask you guys also, did anybody feel like I did that, I mean, and Mark, you were there, as I recall. I mean, the Goldberg-Lesnar thing was a shocker the first time around, and even though, and I give them full credit for that because it was the right business decision, and it was a stunner. But Royal Rumble, they kind of went down the same road, and it didn't have the effect. So that is kind of the million-dollar question, is Goldberg capable of having the kind of match, which we know it's not going to be a long one, or are they just going to have Lesnar, get his revenge by obliterating Goldberg, and then it becomes then I kind of feel like the whole thing then was just the 50-50 booking that we've gotten to know and abhor.
Nope. It's going to be a 20-minute Matt classic, and we all know it.
You know what you're talking about?
I just don't know.
Go ahead. Sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
Oh, I just really don't understand the book, and I agree the Survivor Series was shocking, and then they tried it again at Rumble. But, I mean, if they're meeting for a third time and Brock's got to, overcome this person, I mean, if it's not at least like a decent, 10, 15-minute match, I mean, how's it going to do? And, Brock is probably capable of doing it, but we literally haven't seen Goldberg wrestle a full match in 13 years.
Yep.
And even then, it wasn't like he was ecstatically great on his ability anyway.
Ask William Regal. He's pretty much schooled him and said, I can't quite wrestle myself. So when you had to face Goldberg. One question I did for you guys. Can you maybe help understand what's happened with Apollo Crews into the fact that fans are cheering, "Thank you, Ziggler," being his feet?
Well, I think the booking of that match was just atrociously bad. I mean, how often do you have one heel going against two faces in a match? It just doesn't make any sense. It's like you think the good guys wouldn't want to have an unfair advantage over a bad guy as well too.
I was thinking one of them was going to turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Apollo Crews is incapable.
I saw
of
that card. I
him.
thought that was weird. That there were two baby faces against one heel, and it wasn't
I've never
like
heard
it
of that
was
before.
and it wasn't like it was a great Khali or something like that, or a Big Show, or Kane, Mark Henry, one of those monsters.
Well, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, watching that match straight up, you would think again. I mean, there are definitely people that do it better than me, but if Cruz laid out Ziggler and then Kalisto stole the win or something, at least that would add a little intrigue. But the truth is, look, no matter how far Dolph falls down the ladder, he still manages to put people over. It's unbelievable. I mean, he could basically just be wrestling anybody at this point, and I just don't get it. I think they're really squandering one of, in my mind, the better talents on the roster. And no offense to Apollo Crews, who I think it's done him no justice since he came up, but I just think what they've done to Ziggler is almost criminal. I mean, they're booking him against Jerry Lawler. They're, having him fight. I mean, it's almost like whoever he pissed off, it's never going to turn the other way. So I really feel bad for him because I think Dolph is still somehow underrated, even though he's been a champion. That's how good I think he is and how poorly he's booked.
Well, he probably pissed off Vince McMahon, and booking's just going to be handed over to the guy who put him in a giant wooden crate and sent back to Louisville or Deep South Wrestling 10 years ago. So, I mean, I doubt that that's going to get any better for him anytime soon. But switching gears here, I believe Mark was going to take the reins here.
Yeah, so I'm excited to share something with my brethren across into the into the south actually with me. So something that we're going to have weekly, hopefully, and I can be here to help host it, is something called Wrestling Tinder. And if anyone who is familiar with Tinder is familiar with knowing that, it's a dating site, and if you're interested in that person, you swipe left. If you're not interested in them, you swipe right. Only as we take it in wrestling terms, if any one of us is interested in the topic, that first person has first right of refusal. They'll either say swipe right if you're not interested in the topic, or swipe left, and we'll start engaging in the conversation in a bit of a round table go of it. So, I don't know who's necessarily on my left or right because you're in a different time zone, Brandon, but I'm going to go with you. And right now, so I'll throw out the Anaheim purchase and Impact Wrestling. In comparison to the WWE, is it a viable option? Again, if you're interested in talking about it, we'll go swipe left. If you're not, swipe right.
Well, as someone who's never watched TNA, I got to go with swipe right.
Okay, so let's change topics then. The influx of Ring of Honor talent joining the WWE, whether it's Roderick Strong, potentially Kyle O'Reilly. Now, those are the two predominant names right now. Been a part of it. Thoughts? Interested?
Sure, I'll talk about that one.
Okay,
once again, we don't really get Ring of Honor much here, so it's hard to keep up with all of it. But I think Roderick Strong's like an interesting case there, where he kind of showed up. Fans were somewhat happy to see him. It wasn't as ecstatic as some of the other people who've shown up. And I mean, his wrestling's been pretty good, as I would expect it was from what I've heard about Roderick Strong. But the problem is, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of character to the guy so far. He's just I'm the good wrestler guy in whatever color tights he has. I think it's blue tights. But they haven't really done what they've done with other wrestlers, where they talk about him a lot and talk about his wrestling background and what he thinks about wrestling. I think all that would help him out, because right now he's just getting lost in the shuffle. So if they're going to bring another Ring of Honor people like Kyle O'Reilly and other ones, they need to not just throw them in there. They need to actually build them up with vignettes and stuff too, because yes, the NXT audience is probably the most likely to know who Kyle O'Reilly is, but judging by Roderick Strong, not so much.
So another name to throw in there is Austin Aries, who is a former Ring of Honor alumni, multiple champion. I guess we can pass it over to Mike then. Thoughts?
I agree to a large extent with what Brandon said. I mean, I bow to you a bit, Mr. Madison, when it comes to ROH, because I have watched it, but I can't say I'm religious about it. So usually once I hear about some of these guys, I'll check it out and see what they have to offer. But it certainly would appear that Aries is going to be heavily involved if you kind of see his commentator role and sort of what he's doing with the interviews in the ring. It looks like they're leading up to some physical, potential between him and Neville or whatever. And look, I think Aries is great. I mean, everything I've seen out of him, I think, to Brandon's point, he's one of those guys that does kind of bring his own moxie, if you want to call it, with him. He's very identifiable, very relatable, and he's good in the ring. So, as an overall bigger statement, that I'm very happy with. I'd like to see more, and I think fans will enjoy seeing more of him. But I will agree with Brandon that I think the challenge here is WWE tends to, once they get onto these roles where they get a couple guys and they have success, then it's like, okay, well now we want to bring everybody over, and that's how we're going to really have success. And sometimes it's the outliers that have the success. There's going to be great people that wrestle in every company, and just transplanting them and putting them into another company and going, here you go, isn't always the right way to do it. So I'm, I guess, optimistic, to quote John, I'm optimistic about the potential, and I certainly think Aries is a win-win. But where it goes from here, I'm afraid I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a mixed bag, because I just have not seen the proof that WWE really knows how to market these guys correctly, other than just throwing the names out there.
Well, not only that, if I'm allowed. Oh, good, I do get to talk. I was going to feel bad if I was going to interrupt somebody. I think the worst thing with Austin Aries that WWE has done is have him as somewhat of a baby face. And maybe that's because I haven't watched NXT as much. But at least, like, the way they're having, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in the way I perceived him on NXT and on Raw 205 Live. That he comes off somewhat as a babyface, whereas his meat and potatoes, especially in TNA, was with his greatest man that ever lived character. And really, like, I don't know, I just thought he was really good when before he was in WWE, getting heat, and just never really connected with me as a babyface. But as far as Roderick Strong goes, I think he's suffered from the same problem as Apollo Crews, where they haven't really done anything with him. It's just basically you take Apollo Crews out, you put Roderick Strong in, and they're the same spot. And I don't know if it's, I think we've all said that they just don't know what to do with these guys, or if they're afraid of, well, they have name value and they know who these guys are, and if we mess with their characters, people won't like them. So they don't do anything with their characters, and then people don't like them. So, but on the converse, I do think, if I'm allowed to bring up another name, would be somebody like Eric Young, which with the Sanity thing, I'm excited to see if Sanity can make it to the main roster and get a Sanity and Wyatt family feud. I think that would be really good.
I don't know so much about Young's involvement with Ring of Honor, but I can definitely see how you're definitely onto something with them joining in and how they would contribute.
Yeah, I don't think Eric Young was in Ring of Honor that much, but I was just kind of thinking of guys that were outside of WWE. Sorry to veer off the path a little bit there.
Oh, no worries. So another name that actually has returned is a Cassius Ohno, who was known as Chris Hero, his actual name, returning to NXT. He's going to be a challenger once again. So if anybody has seen him wrestle, Chris Jericho calls himself the 61-minute man, but On and I've had in the past a member of Smash Wrestling, a local promotion, Chris Hero or Cassius Ohno, competed in a wrestling marathon where he wrestled for 3 hours straight in consecutive matches in a gauntlet match where he faced man after man after man, and it was incredible. So you want to talk about stamina, we talk about articulate a guy that knows the business. May not have the best muscular body, but definitely as a former Ring of Honor champion alongside Cesaro, they were the kings of wrestling, their tag team, back when Cesaro had hair. Definitely knows what he's doing. Definitely know what they're doing, and if anyone can look up Kings of Wrestling, their past work together, they were phenomenal. And with Cassius Ohno on NXT, look out for that. With a really cool theme song, really chanting, "Oh no, oh no," but it's sung a lot better than I have. So, next question, I guess I'll start off with Mike. The Hideo Itami being absent, potentially returning, and maybe potentially a feud with a Shinsuke Nakamura, which this side of the world has never probably seen. Interested in that type of topic? Swipe left. Not interested? Swipe right.
I would definitely swipe left on that. I love Tommy, and I think he's one of the guys who has been lost in the shuffle, due to the injury situation. But, his work, he's an example of somebody who I did not know very much about prior to hearing that he was signing with WWE, and I went back and looked into his matches, and, I'm really, really impressed. And I don't think he's gotten the opportunity to really show that, as I mentioned. So I'm very excited, very high on him anyway. And Nakamura, I've said many times on the show, I don't know that anybody can approach the level of Evan Ginzburg enjoyment of Nakamura, but I'll be a close second on that because I think you said it, Mark. It's very different from American wrestling, and that's a good thing where I sit. So, I've brought up before, I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing it, when I used to watch wrestling in a bingo hall, there were an influx of wrestlers from all over the world. And one of the things that's lost, I think, greatly in the story of ECW is the fact that Mexican wrestling and Japanese wrestling and many of these other styles of wrestling, which were not commonly done in North America, were not only seen but enjoyed by the same people who liked watching fat guys, pile each other through tables into barbed wire. It's just a different cultural experience, and I think it's one that many wrestling fans would enjoy. So even the thought of those two guys wrestling under that banner is exciting to me, and I think it could absolutely open some doors in a major way. So I hope that happens. I think it would be the best possible scenario, and I would love to both of those guys getting nice long runs in the WWE and kind of breaking that stereotype, if you want to call it, of the fact that if you're a foreign-born, an Asian especially wrestler, that you have to look like Yokozuna if you want to have success simply because you don't speak the Queen's English, because there's plenty of guys who can speak English and can't wrestle their way out of a paper bag. So I would love to see that. Highly, highly interested.
John, what are you?
I don't know if I'm WWE, if I would blow my load on that in NXT, although that would be another thing to get NXT back on the map. They've kind of been slumping really since NXT TakeOver Dallas. So that would be something to get them back on the map and get more attention to them and more eyes on them. But I would love to see that at a WrestleMania or some main roster pay-per-view. I think that's more worthy of a Hideo Itami, Shinsuke Nakamura feud, something that we haven't seen here in the West. And they definitely got my money for it, if and when they do it.
Brandon?
It's just amazing and sad how much time Hideo Itami is kind of missed, because he really was that Japanese star that kind of brought NXT up a lot there as well too. Because I remember I saw the first ever show in San Jose when he was there, and he was like the first person out, and he actually hit the GTS for the first time in that place. I haven't really heard a louder pop for a move or a finish before. So he was really, I think he was on the. He also was in the Battle Royale at 31. It's just injuries have kind of killed him. So I think anything that if he can stay healthy and if he can get himself a quality feud, why not do Nakamura? I mean, I know John just mentioned, putting on a big pay-per-view, but to be honest, that's the sort of thing that would probably be a lot more successful on NXT, where they could tell the story, tell their background, and do those sort of things as well, too.
Okay. Thanks, guys. So definitely, much like everyone else, I'm definitely in agreement with the idea of a Nakamura, Tammy match. Unfortunately, it couldn't have been for the NXT Championship. It's gone in the direction that it has, but would definitely still be a match to look forward to, hopefully down the road, whether on the main roster or in NXT. Last set of questions, I guess, provide the option to John. I will start off with the idea of a...
The idea of what? You kind of broke up there. I'm sorry.
TNA, WWE join-ups. Sorry. The idea of a cross-promotional event. So Ring of Honor and TNA join up, as they've been hinted of having between Young Bucks and the Hardys, or potentially the idea of a Lucha Underground and maybe something with CMLL in Mexico, something that potentially interests you. Swipe right. If not, swipe left if you are.
As far as a Ring of Honor and a TNA, that I would swipe right on. CMLL I'm not really as familiar with, but anything to get Lucha Underground more exposure, I would definitely swipe left to.
Go for it. So, take it away. Would you think that they could work?
No, go ahead.
No, would it be Lucha Underground and say the WWE? Would you want to see something where networks can promote their talent? And
I definitely think, and that's an interesting one, Lucha Underground and WWE, because Lucha Underground has a very almost, I don't know if I would say diverse roster, but it kind of is. And with all the rumors of Rey Mysterio is gone from there, that kind of hurts that. But I think Lucha Underground and WWE would be very interesting to see, a guy like Ricochet, Prince Puma, be able to finally step foot in the WWE ring and have him go square off with Kalisto, or even like a Shinsuke Nakamura or an AJ Styles in the WWE ring, I think would be fantastic. Seeing John Morrison, Johnny Mundo back in WWE would be great. Chavo Guerrero is still there, or is he gone?
Or backstage, not necessarily primarily.
Gotcha.
In front of the screen.
What's her name? Sexy Star, is that her name?
Yeah.
That's still Lucha Underground.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a great, if you want to do iconic women of a promotion versus iconic woman of a promotion, you'd be able to get a good money match almost out of Sexy Star versus Charlotte Flair or Sasha Banks. I definitely think a lot of people would put money towards that, and I would spend money to watch that match. But beyond that, I've always loved the idea of like fantasy booking, promotion versus promotion. Unfortunately, for like a TNA and a Ring of Honor, especially Ring of Honor now, that their roster is so depleted. And especially if the likes of Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole jump ship to WWE like they're being talked about, then it's only going to be worse, and especially now with Kazarian joining the Bullet Club. So the addiction's gone too. There's not a lot of really marquee names there left in Ring of Honor that would really generate a lot of interest. And the same could really be said for TNA. I mean, Jay Lethal, and he's pretty much done everything in TNA that he could ever want to do. And as far as his current character, there's not really much left. If he were to get a second run back on top, I mean, it would kind of almost be a rerun at this point, especially having the year-long reign that he had. But sorry to go on with such a long-winded answer. But
no, perfect. Brandon.
Well, I'll admit I'm a bit behind on Lucha Underground these days, but I did watch the first two seasons, all the way through, and I've really enjoyed the product. It was unique, it was fun, and I'm just a fan of anything that would kind of keep Lucha Underground going in any way. I just worry with their current business model of let's just be a televised show. I just don't see how that's really like sustainable, because your ratings would have to be really good to pay for it. And RA Network is a pretty small network in this in the United States here. So if they want to do any cross promotion to keep them going for a while longer, fine. It's just I just don't currently see it, since they're not doing like live events or pay-per-views or some of the things that even Ring of Honor and TNA do to kind of keep things kind of going a little bit. So as much Lucha Underground as I can get as I can, and pretty soon. But other than that, I feel like someday we'll see people like Ricochet and others in WWE.
Super. Mike?
I would say that I think this is one of those topics where it's fun to talk about, but I think execution-wise, it often leads to some disappointment. There's just too many egos. If you're in charge of a promotion, I think there have been examples of them being able to loan talent and things like that, and that makes a lot of sense because you want people to be exposed to different types of wrestling, but you always risk that your promotion is going to look weak compared to the other. And so I think when it comes to actually like having a great event, it's very hard. I think under the right circumstances, it could be very good. As far as it relates to WWE kind of doing business with anybody, I just, as a wrestling fan, as much as I think that could boost some of these other promotions, I just would be reluctant to do that because I feel like WWE wants full control of everything that they do. So, unfortunately, I think we're just much more likely to see the kind of phony invasion type of angles that are still very good when they're done well. But I have to tell you that I'm a little bit sour on the whole, fantasy element of this promotion versus this promotion because I just don't think it's been executed very well because I just think there are too many egos involved and too much, of that type of thing. Guys that have worked together before don't like each other and a lot of that sort of thing that happens behind the doors of wrestling, behind the curtain. So as much as I would like to be positive about that, I don't know that it's realistic. It's definitely fun to talk about, but I don't know that it could work because of the reasons that I mentioned.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Especially when it comes to the WWE. I know that there's been other working relationships. Ring of Honor's worked with CMLL and New Japan multiple times where it's made sense. And if we go back into the olden days, and when we say olden days, we're talking maybe pre-Attitude Era when ECW had invaded the WWE. That was trendy. That was cutting edge. And people thought, oh my gosh, Tommy Dreamer's on a WWE show. Oh my gosh, that's Raven. Like, that was the concept or the idea. I know TNA toyed with something like that, Global Force Wrestling, and they had something like that. It would work if on the opposing show's network they came in and invaded and looked strong, and then you went over onto the other show's network and their stars showed up there, and again they looked strong in that it became a win-win. But again, much like you said, too many egos involved, unless it was something where it was not as grand as the WWE. They want to make their stars look the strongest, and for good reason. If you're the top company, you're not going to have somebody else look better than you. There's got to be a significant payoff. So, yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. That ends this first edition of Wrestling Tinder. You enjoyed it. A little different. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but we'll throw out multiple topics. And again, guys, you'll have a choice of swiping right, swiping left.
Absolutely. Definitely excited to see more of this segment and to see it evolve into what we can make it into. And I enjoyed it. I hope the other guys did too.
Look at us being hip, using Tinder and other terminology in our show.
This segment was lit. There we go. I showed all of our ages there.
Oh my gosh. Are you on Flip? Lee?
Huh?
I don't know.
Well, to get even more hip with the show, I'm going to bring on a man who has been very patiently waiting, a man who hasn't been on the show in several months, and is the associate producer for the Oscar-nominated film The Wrestler. I'm sure he's not in much of a mood for me to give him a very, very flamboyant introduction, so I will bring on the often imitated, never duplicated, never seen it duplicated, but I'm sure it's been imitated, the one and only Evan Ginzburg. Don't ask me to repeat that because I guarantee you I can't.
Thanks for having me back, guys. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. And for the first time, Evan, you're on with all four of us.
Oh, this is a milestone in pro wrestling. There you go. There you go.
Has it really never happened before? Have everyone on at once?
I don't believe so. Usually Mark would leave after like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. I mean, even I'm going to have to leave soon. I'll feel like I'm just being like rude to Evan or something.
Oh, sure.
Hey guys.
Sure. Many weeks.
Somebody you didn't mention before, I saw just tonight live, Pentagon. Pentagon's amazing. That guy's top 10 in the world. Tremendous.
Yeah, I was going to say his name, but and he would be great in the WWE. I just feel like they would not use him properly.
Well, they tend to do that, but this guy is. I saw him wrestle Phoenix twice. The promotion's called Tier 1 Lucha Libre, and basically it's New York indie guys, and they bring in 3 or 4 luchadors in the main slots, and all Mexican. I shouldn't say all Mexican, predominantly Mexican crowd. The show is done in Spanish. It's in Queens, New York, and it's just to see guys like Pentagon up close, tremendous. And he wrestled Ray Horace. Am I pronouncing that correctly? He's been on Lucha Underground.
I wish I was more up with Lucha Underground to be able to let you know if you have the name pronunciation done right. But I'm going to break from that for a second, Evan. We're going to be losing Brandon here in a second. I just want to give him a chance to shill anything that he may have coming up before we're on the air again.
Yay, shilling. So, yeah, sorry I have to go. I always love to hear what Evan has to say. I'll listen to it later. But all I was going to say is, let's see, I'm actually now on 2 websites. I'm on Sportspedia. Is that how you say it, Mark?
Sportspedia?
Sportspedia. I should know that correctly since they're actually paying me money now. Yeah. So so I'm writing on there, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing a lot of lists. So I just got the clearance from the people to do like a list of like things I learned from the WrestleManias. I don't know how many WrestleManias I'm going to get through. I don't know if I'm going to end up doing like 31 of them. That would kind of be insane. No, 32, sorry. But I'm going to try to definitely start with the early ones, which I haven't seen in a long time. So I'm going to do that, and I've set myself up to do like surprising things I learned from a pay-per-view, so I'll do that for Fastlane. And the last thing, and I'll just say it to him while I'm on the air for the last couple minutes, I need to talk to Mark there and actually do our joint column we talked about on GGR Wrestling at some point soon.
Yeah, we're working on just thinking out the logistics of how it's going to work, so we're looking forward to that.
So that's where I'm right now. It's been a lot of fun. I've been writing more in the last couple of weeks than I have recently, so happy to share it with all 4 of you.
Absolutely.
Brandon's more apparent than Emelina.
What's that?
Brandon's more evident and more, in play than Emelina ever was, so there goes that idea.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry to disappoint you. We hope it was worth the wait, just like Emelina was, right?
You know what I learned from WrestleMania? That wrestling fans would spend thousands of dollars to go see a wrestling show. That always boggled my mind. Thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I've done it before. I did it at 31, I must say.
Really?
Did you do You did the package for 31?
No, I didn't do the package. But still flying down there and staying a couple days and seeing WrestleMania, NXT San Jose, Mick Foley comedy. I mean, it's not cheap. I mean, he's right. I'm not paying like tens of thousands for front row seats, but it's definitely a big vacation.
I'd like to go to Japan once and do a wrestling week or 2. That would be interesting.
That would be cool.
Still wouldn't be a
I
couple
guess
thousand. You'd still be getting cheaper than going to WrestleMania.
I just do what I do. Just wait till it's in Vegas and just go to Vegas. Money in the Bank was pretty much the best pay-per-view last year, and I was there. It was good.
I want to go to Vegas sometime.
Well, there you go.
Anyway.
Nice to talk to you guys again. I'll listen to the rest of the show off air and talk to you guys next week.
All right, well, we'll be in touch soon. Thanks. And look forward to having you on, hopefully more often than Emelina's been on Raw.
Well, there you go. Bye.
There, Brandon.
So, Evan, I wanted to give you a chance to reflect on and remember. We touched on it, gave a moment of silence and a 10-bell salute at the top of the show, and gave some memories of Nicole Bass and Ivan Koloff and George the Animal Steele and Chavo Guerrero Sr., all of which passed within the last week or so. And I know you were friends with several of them, so I want to give you a chance to really be able to share any memories or share or reflect back for the next few minutes.
Well, Ivan Koloff is a top 10 all-time heel. If you're going to do any list and he's not in the top 10 as far as heels, you probably don't know your wrestling. This guy headlined Madison Square Garden 13 times. He beat Bruno at the Garden, and Bruno handpicked him to do this. Bruno was champion for 8 years, and when Koloff pinned him, the place went silent. They were actually in shock and grief. And the heat was so enormous, they had him lose the belt 3 weeks later to Pedro Morales, and then he was out of the territory. They were so worried about riots. This was the kind of heat this guy generated. And this was before most of you guys were born, so I don't know how aware you are of it. But he comes back in 1975 as a challenger and headlines the Garden 3 times in a row, including the first steel cage match ever. Later, he's tag teaming with Billy Graham, and he main events the Garden, Bruno and Tony Parisi against Graham and Koloff, and each time they tag team, they do this bit where Graham and Koloff get into an argument. They start shoving each other, and they're teasing a breakup, which never happened. And it would have been so easy for McMahon Sr. to turn Graham face, and he would have been, the Hulk Hogan. You would have had Hulkamania 10 years earlier with Graham as a face, and they never did it. McMahon had promised Backlund the belt, and that was that. And he stuck with his promise. But I think it was a missed opportunity. But anyway, Koloff, of course, went on to form the Russians with Nikita and Crusher Khrushchev, and that was a huge, huge money-drawing tag team, and they went against some of the greatest tag teams in history, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, the Road Warriors. I shouldn't say Midnight Express, they were heels, but tremendous, tremendous tag team matches. And Koloff's an all-time great, and disgracefully, the WWE never put him in their Hall of Fame. And he's doing a GoFundMe, the family's doing a GoFundMe for, medical and funeral expenses, which is shameful, absolutely shameful. And this is an all-time great who generated millions for that company. Chavo Guerrero, unfortunately what happens with younger fans is they don't see these guys in their prime. Chavo Guerrero, he was like Eddie Guerrero and like Chris Jericho, wrestled all over the world, molded all different styles of wrestling, and he was the king of L.A. He was a huge, huge star when WWE would have major shows like at Shea Stadium. They would fly Chavo in. Out of all the stars in the country, they'd fly him in. And believe it or not, the guy was a sex symbol in his prime. You don't remember. The guy was like a babe magnet in his prime, and a tremendous wrestler to boot, and he made a lot of great money in Japan. And again, he never has quite gotten his due. And I think when you think of the Guerrero family, the younger fans think more of Eddie. And Gory Guerrero, his dad, was also a legendary figure. But Chavo was tremendous. George Steele in the WWF was more a novelty act. He was a high school coach. He generally only come in during the summers, and during the summers he'd wrestle Bruno, Pedro, Backlund, whoever was on top. When the WWF exploded in the mid '80s, he finally went full time with them because the money was big. But George Steele was basically a part-time wrestler and kind of a novelty act. He was not on the par wrestling-wise as an Ivan Koloff. Nicole Bass was a very, very dear friend, and I'm just very heartsick that she passed. And Nicole Bass was a huge female bodybuilding legend. She boxed. People don't realize that. She was in WWE. She was in ECW. And, of course, Howard Stern. So she was successful on many different fronts. And the kindest, sweetest, warmest person you would ever want to meet. And, she called me a few days before she died. And I'm never going to erase the message. And, just very devastated. Only 52 years old. And just a good person, just a very sweet person, the life of the party, like a walking parade. Wherever she went, people would recognize her and ask for pictures and autographs, just a lot of fun. And unfortunately, when you see the various, obituaries and write-ups of her, they emphasize some of the turbulent personal stuff, but she was a caretaker for her late husband and just a good person. And, I'd like for her to be remembered as such. And it's not easy being different. It's not easy looking different. It's not easy being stared at. People don't really quite grasp this. And that's basically my brief take on my dear friend Nicole.
Unfortunate. Like I said at the top of the show, and I'm sorry for your loss, Evan, as I said to you privately. But unfortunate to ever see anybody from the wrestling community pass away, let alone for recognized names like
in 1 week.
In 1 week.
Wow.
I believe Chavo was Sunday. I could be wrong. Last Sunday. And then at the end of the week, Nicole, then George, then Ivan. Yeah, rough week, boy. And for me, like I said, Nicole was a dear, dear friend, and Ivan was a childhood hero. So, to me, it was just, I was shell-shocked this week. And I'm sorry you guys never saw Ivan Koloff walk down the aisle of Madison Square Garden in 1975 with no blaring music, no pyro, and just the place would erupt. I mean, the guy had so much credibility. The guy, back in those days, a title meant so much. The fact that he beat Bruno, who was champion for 8 years, every time the guy stepped in the ring, you thought he had a chance of taking the belt again. So the folks were in awe of him. And it's hard to imagine that today, where everything's on the internet and, you know there's going to be no title match on a title change on a house show or whatnot. It was a different time. It was, half the fans were marks to begin with. It was a very different era.
I can't speak for Mike, but my only awareness, or my earliest awareness, knowledge of Ivan Koloff was really, with Nikita and Crusher, and he was more in a backseat role, more managerial type.
Yeah, because he wasn't a kid anymore. He started in the '60s, right?
It was definitely it was the end of what was, right?
Right.
So it is unfortunate. So, definitely, we would have to search up tapes and really explore some of the past to really appreciate what he meant, what he contributed. My grandfather was a huge Bruno's fan, so to know that his idol, as an Italian, and what Bruno meant, Italian culture, to see him lose, it was devastating. So.
Yeah. Ivan, like I said, Ivan headlined the Garden 13 times, and for him not to be in their Hall of Fame, I can't even wrap my head around it. There had to be backstories. I know early on, Ivan and Ernie Ladd and superstar Billy Graham went to Vince McMahon, asked for more money, which was a concerted power play, because the three of them were huge draws and main eventers at the time. Later on, Ivan went to the IWA and wrestled Mil Mascaras, which was the WWF's competitor. Recently,
Alberto Del Rio's father.
Excuse me?
But that was Alberto Del Rio's father, right?
Mascaras?
Yeah, was he not?
Uncle, I believe.
Uncle.
Right. Uncle, yeah.
Uncle.
Yeah.
We'll definitely delve into more memories, and I apologize for being crunched for time, Evan. But I would love to have you back on next week to be able to share more memories.
To share the next four guys that dropped this week. Oh my God, what a week! Oh man.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But do you have anything that you want to promote really quick, Evan?
Yeah, check out Evan Ginzburg's Old School Wrestling Memories on Facebook. It grows by the day, and we have tons of rare videos and clippings and lineup sheets, and I wrote a lengthy piece on Ivan and Evan Ginzburg's Old School Wrestling Memories on Facebook, and you can check out my Wrestling Then and Now documentary on Amazon Prime, and basically that's it, and I'm hoping to regroup with the TV show very shortly. I'm checking out a new station tomorrow, so hopefully I'll have an announcement soon, and that's pretty much the story.
Well, best of luck with that. We hope that works out in your favor, and we get you back on the airwaves as soon as possible.
Thank you. And go buy a ticket and see Pentagon. That guy's tremendous. I'm jaded. I'm telling you, every move is crisp, and this guy's right there with Nakamura and AJ Styles. This guy's tremendous.
Definitely going to have to. Unfortunately, don't get too much wrestling up my way. Mark, do you have anything that you would like to shill for our listeners and fans to check out?
Well, I've had a few things posted on Sportskeeda, much like Brandon has. I've got 5 Canadian wrestlers the WWE should sign, and I was fortunate. I had an exchange with Tyson Dukes, who was part of the Cruiserweight Classic halfback for 20 years, and the fact that he's not in again is a shame. But he was one to retweet that column. There's also I did recently this past week Strange Things in Wrestling. It's an exclusive piece that I do for TGR Wrestling, where I take the not necessarily the beaten path, pointing out some of the more stranger things that happen in wrestling in a particular week, whether it's why Enzo Amore decided to propel himself on the top rope, or why Emelina decided to walk in and then walk right back out. Those were a couple things that we highlighted this past week. And I made a debut piece with Nation, essentially for the travel ban, or proposed one, actually impact the WWE. We tackle the idea. Is it a stretch? Maybe, maybe not. But we have some fun with it, and it's up on pwpnation.com, and I'll have a few more small facts for Sportskeeda and TJR.
Awesome stuff. Definitely got to check that out. And lastly, Mike Holland, do you have anything that you would like to shill for our fans and listeners to check out of yours?
Well, naturally, John, I always do. But I would say he's been nice enough to do it to me before, so I feel the need to return the favor. But I would say, in lieu of my own content this week, because I actually have not posted anything this week, I will have something. It'll be up either tonight or tomorrow night on TJR Wrestling and Raja. But I would like to say, in lieu of that I did read Mark's Stranger Things in Wrestling column, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was very good. I thought it was different. And, Mark always does a good job. He's very, humble when it comes to, what he does and the work of others. So I would just encourage, like I said, anyone that is looking for something from me, I will have it up shortly. But in the meantime, definitely check that out because, like I said, it was different, and I thought a unique take. I always like the strange stuff, so I liked it a lot, but I would highly recommend it. I thought it was 2 thumbs up.
I appreciate
Two whiskey sours. 2 whiskey sours up for that.
2 whiskey sours.
Nice.
Well, there you have it, folks. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. We'll be back next Sunday with an all-new edition, kind of a WWE Fastlane preview show, if you will. And got a couple topics next week, including the return of Wrestling Tinder, because I think we all enjoyed it this week, so we'll definitely do it again. And I do have my rant going into Fastlane about a 50-year-old Goldberg possibly becoming champion. But on that note, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for listening on demand. If you do, ProWrestling.biz radio network, we appreciate them for housing us. Once again, of course, Wrestling-News.net. And for Brandon Lasher, Mike Holland, and Mark Madison, Evan Ginzburg, there's a lot of you guys tonight. Want to say thank you once again for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week back here. ProWrestling.biz radio network, blogtalkradio.com/ProWrestling.biz, Wrestling.net. And until next time, guys, be good, be safe, and Lord willing, you guys will catch us back here next Sunday night. Have a good one, everybody. So long.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the Geico app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the Geico app. Look it in the mouth. Get amazing services. Thank you.